Hello everybody, happy Friday night. Welcome to my Zen Den. I am so happy that you could join me tonight. My name is Mandy Van Havermet and I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin Up from Great Eagle, Minnesota. Tonight I am going to share with you, I've been waiting because I waited for it all to come back in so you could order everything if you did want to order it, if you were interested. The Earthen Elegance Suite. It's earthy. I'm earthy. I love earthy. So it's everything that I love. It looks a little rusty, and I love rust, which may sound really weird, but my husband and I are really into antiques. And like I told my neighbor, who was a body guy, he was here one day and he was talking about, I don't even remember what. And I'm like, well, my favorite color is rust. And he looked at me like I was nuts, but it's true. I really like rusty stuff. So anyhow, let's flip the camera around and we're going to get stamping, and I will show you the Earthen Elegance Suite. Hold on one second while I flip my camera around. Okay, so Earthen Elegance is on page 71 of the annual catalog. I love everything about this suite. I love the colors. It's got copper clay, moody mauve, pretty peacock, misty moonlight, pecan pie, and pebbled path. All really neat colors. I love the sentiments. Thank you, but that font is just amazing, isn't it? You are proof that there is good in the world. With gratitude, your thoughtfulness is much appreciated, and you always know just what to say and do. Really cool. The dies are really, really fun. They're interesting dies. Some of them go with the stamps, and then there's some standalone dies that add just some awesome texture. So let's get into stamping. We are going to start with, let's see here, got a fuzzy floating around my desk. We're going to start with this card here, which looks like it's a lot of pieces, but you have to realize that we're going to be cutting out some pieces with the dies. So a lot of it is scraps. So this is the card that we're going to be making. I've got a sweatshirt on. It's kind of chilly in my basement, so in my Zen Den, which is in my basement. So this is the card we're going to be making. Here's the list of everything that we're going to need. Set that aside. We're going to start out with a piece of 8.5 by 5.5 pebbled path. This is one of the new in colors. I like this color. It coordinates really, really well with the gray granite, in my opinion. And then we're going to need a piece of the design. I've kind of got them mixed up here. A piece of designer series paper. I'm using the piece of Moody Mauve, 2 by 4.5. And then we're going to take a piece of Pretty Peacock that's going to be 1/4 inch bigger, so 2.5 by 4 3/4. I'm reading my list. The gray granite. See, doesn't that look just awesome with the gray granite? I love it. 2.5 by 4. Another piece of Pretty Peacock, 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. And then we're going to grab a strip. I've got some extras just in case. A 1/2 inch strip by 2 3/4, 1/2 inch wide of gray granite. And then for the Pretty Peacock, 5/8 inch by 2 3/4. So something just to layer that on. I need a scrap of copper clay. And then this, I've got it listed as a scrap of the designer series paper, but I want to show you this designer series paper. It may look kind of weird when you look at it as a whole sheet, but it makes the coolest vases. I'll show you on here. It makes them so they're like drippy, like it looks like the glaze is dripping and running. It is so, so cool. I love this designer series paper. So let's get stamping and cracking here. I'm going to pull out my plate and pull out some dies. We're actually going to cut this just so I can run more than one thing at a time. Okay, and then I'm going to grab one of the pieces of Pretty Peacock. Does not matter which one, just not the 5/8 inch one, but one of the ones that we're going to be covering up. Because I'm going to do that trick where I, like, you know, cut something out and then hide it. So let's grab my dies. I'm going to grab this tall skinny vase, and that is going to go on the copper clay. And then I'm going to grab this short vase, and I'm going to place that kind of wherever I want to get just that varied look. with the dripping, so it looks like it's dripping down. It's such a pretty piece of paper. It's so neat. And then I'm going to grab just this little stick piece. Looks like a bunch of sticks sticking out, and I'm putting that right in the middle of that piece right there. Put my other plate on top, and we're going to run this through the cut and emboss machine. And I know last week, if you were watching, I mentioned that the new winter mini catalogs should be coming out in the mail soon. And then I went to work the next day, and guess what was in the mail? It was the mini catalogs. I was so excited. So if you should have gotten your mini catalogs in the mail, if you have not, let me know. And I've got some extras here at my house, and I will get one right to you. So excited for all that goodness. I'm going to cut a second one out while I've got that here, just to make it a little bit more. Just a little bit more, because we like a little bit more, right? But there's so much goodness inside that little mini catalog. And so, of course, I've got my paper shares that I offer every new catalog. And this catalog is no different. So I will kind of talk about that through the presentation here tonight. It's going to be $45. There are 15 different kinds of designer series paper and specialty designer series paper available. So it is, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of specialty designer series paper in there. If you haven't noticed that, go back and look at it again, because there is so much foil in that paper. It's so cool. Some of it is, you guys, I can't wait to share it with you. I've been hiding it because I can't sell it to you yet unless you join Stampin' Up, which you could totally join Stampin' Up. But anyhow, I'm babbling. Let's make a card. Okay, I need some ink. Let's grab some ink. We're going to be using Pebbled Path and Pretty Peacock. All right. So I feel like I've got too many pieces. Let's take care of that right now. I'm going to combine these together, right? So let's put some adhesive on the back of this 2 by 4.5 piece, and we're going to mat this on a 2 1/4 by 4 3/4 piece of Pretty Peacock. Let's fold and burnish this. See how things are just shrinking right up on my desk? So wonderful. Okay, and now we're going to take this piece of gray granite. And if you noticed on my sample, this was actually a deckled rectangle. I kind of wasn't feeling it tonight, so I just decided to cut a rectangle, which is just fine. You don't have to always do exactly like what you're seeing me do on my samples. Change it up a bit, make it your own. That is totally fantastic, and I love it when you do, because that makes it yours. And this is an art, so I want it to be yours. So we're going to take a little bit more adhesive, put that right on here, and I'm centering it. No, I'm not. I'm putting it up a little bit higher, up towards the top. And then this one, I'm not going to adhere this down yet, and there's a reason why. I want to make sure that this fits on there nicely. So that's just me. So I'm going to open up my Pretty Peacock, and I'm going to take the sentiment that says thank you. And we're going to say a little prayer and hope that it's straight, and hope that it is. Oh, look at that. It worked on the first time. Oh. And now, since I've got my ink pads open, I'm going to take, on the inside, I'm taking a piece of gray granite. Instead of taking white, I like to change it up. I like to not always have white on the insides, because white is nice, but it's, it's not a color. So I'm going to stamp. You always know just what to say and do. And I have the perfect person to send this card to. She's been having, she's stressed out to the max, and she is always there for everybody else. And so I'm going to take this little vase container pot. That's what I'm trying to say. I just wanted it done there. I think it's pretty, and I thought I'd like to add that on there. So we're going to set that off to the side and let that dry. And now we'll work on these. I always like to let my pieces dry just a little bit because I'm always afraid I'm going to smudge them. And that's because I have smudged quite a few, and that's frustrating to me. So I'm just lining that up. And of course, this is just a little bit bigger, so I'm going to trim that off. And so there, it will be perfect on there. Let's put these on first. On this pot here, there is a bottom. If you look, this has got like a little flange on the bottom. This one's going to go directly on just like that after I put in my spikes. Just like that. And this one I'll put up just a smidgen higher. Perfect. So I'm just sticking those right onto the back, and then that will sit right there like that. And I'm not putting any adhesive on the back of these. I don't feel like I need to. They're stuck down really nice on the back of this, on the back of the pot there. So there's that one. And now this pot, I am going to actually, this is the ribbon that goes with, it's called Wavy Trim. I'm going to show you another really interesting way to use this. But I'm going to wrap some right around my vase. So what I do is I stick some adhesive on the back, and then I am literally just spinning like that. And don't make it too tight because it'll bend, but make it just, and I think it just adds such a pretty beautiful, it's just awesome. I love it. Love, love, love it. And then just snip off the back. Just make sure that it's attached really good then after you've wrapped it around like that. And because this has got that bump on the back, we're going to use some dimensionals, and 3 will be lovely. Like that. Isn't that pretty? I love it. And now, a couple more dimensionals. I was going to grab a new one. This is why I have like 15 open, because I constantly am reaching over and grabbing a new one. Okay, so I've only got 2 dimensionals on there. They're kind of on top of this pot. I don't want them to be on top of this one. On here, I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive to stick to that. You know what? I'm going to move this over just a teeny tiny bit. There we go. Okay. So now I'm lining it up. By the way, didn't that pot turn out just stunning? I love it. Line it up with the edges and with the edges, and it should be perfect right like that. So pretty. Okay, nobody will know. All right, and then this I'm going to position roughly the same distance that I did there. I'm going to position on this side. So cool. I love that. I love the gray granite and the pebbled path together. I think that is just an awesome color combination. Let's put our inside in. Perfect. And I needed one more finishing touch, so I thought something needed to go right there. So this is the neutral adhesive back sequins. I love them because they are mailable, and you know how I feel about that. I'm going to take one of them that's the dark brown and just stick it right there. Just one little sequin. I think that adds the perfect touch. So that is our first card. If you want to take a, and I'll show you my other sample. Was a little bit different. I used copper clay ink right there, and then my deckled rectangle, and I actually embossed that also. I just didn't do that on this one. So you could always step it up just a little bit more and make it a little bit more fancy. Totally up to you. All right, now the second card, I'm actually casing out of the catalog. I know, shocking, right? But I thought it was such an interesting card. If you look at this one right here, this is actually, it's not a regular size card. The cards that we normally do, the 5 1/4, or 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. It's a little different. So I'm going to alter it to be mine, but we're going to do that design right there because I was intrigued by all of that goodness right there. So let's get into it. I have got all my stuff. Okay, I have got a piece of copper clay, and this is 11 by 4 1/4. So it's the long way, right? Scored down the middle at 5 1/2. I've got a piece of the designer series paper, and this piece here is cut at 5 by 3 3/4. I've got a piece of basic white for the inside, and then I've got scraps of basic white and Pretty Peacock, and then I've got a strip of Pretty Peacock that is a 1/2 inch by 3 inches. This happens to be the back side of the designer series paper. It was a scrap, so I'm using that because I wanted to. And then all these ribbons, I'm going to show you where I've got all those strings from. So let's get to it. All right, first things first, I'm going to use copper clay, and I am going to stamp. Oh, I need another piece of scrap of white. That never happens. I just so happen to have one. Okay, going to stamp in my copper clay the like feathery looking piece of grass. What is that, pampas grass? Is that what it's called? Very pretty. And then I am going to take out my Pretty Peacock ink and my sentiment that says, "You are proof there is good in the world." There are so many good people in the world, and I'm thankful for each and every one of them. All right. So the way that they cut out that shape is actually, let's see here, we've got our pampas grass die that we're going to line up, and then we're actually going to be using the long skinny pot as our to cut out our sentiment. So I'm going to grab a Post-it note and stick that down on there, and then do the same thing with my pampas grass. There we go. All right, so bring in my die cutting plates. We're going to put that one on, we're going to put that one on, and we're going to run it through our cut and emboss machine. So there's our piece of pampas grass. Put that back. And there is our sentiment inside the pot. I'm going to cut one more out of the Pretty Peacock. And I don't need to attach that down with any Post-it note because I'm not keeping it in line with anything. So run that through. All right, put that back. Okay, let's fold and burnish our card. And sometimes it's just kind of fun to fold them a little bit different. So I'm going to actually open this card this way, like this. It's kind of fun to do something just a little different sometimes, and I don't think to do it. I just like to make regular shaped cards, I guess. Somewhere is my tape. There we go. My tape runner. I found it. And I like this designer series paper because this was another one that was, it was panels that you could use. They were different, like it was two, that makes sense, right? Coming from this side and coming from this side. So you cut it down the middle at 6 inches and you've got two of the same panels. And I just like that kind of designer series paper. I hope you understood what I was just saying to you. Okay, I'm going to bring in my cut and emboss machine. My paper trimmer. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer. And here's how I'm going to cut this. I'm lining it up and I am just eyeballing it. I'm keeping my pot that has got an even edge, like my straight edge, so the top, I'm keeping that. It is not lined up on a line because I was not good enough to stamp it or cut it that perfect, but I can, if I hold it tight, it's going to be straight. So now I can take that piece out and eyeball it again. So now this edge is straight, so I'm going to cut or make sure it's lined up exactly perfect. Hold that down tight and cut it. Don't let it slip because otherwise you're going to get a wonky. So there's your piece, your sentiment. Pretty tricky, huh? I liked it. I thought it was neat. Now the trick to putting it on the piece of Pretty Peacock and getting it lined up perfectly is to use glue. The reason you want to use glue is because you've got enough room to slide it to make it just perfect. So we're going to put just a little bit of glue on the back. And then we can just slide it to where it's lined up perfect. All right, which actually lined up really good. I'm a good eyeballer tonight. I'm going to take my snips then, and I'm totally just going to cut straight and cut straight. So that is how they got the sentiment on that card. I thought that was like the most clever thing in the world. Okay, now if you think that was really clever, wait till you see the next thing, because it is like really, really cool. I lost my little piece of, I had a sliver of Pretty Peacock. It was a 1/2 inch. I showed it to you because I said it was designer series paper. Where do you suppose it went? Well, it's okay. Guess what? Now we're going to use cardstock, and I'm going to cut another one because I just so happen to have a piece of cardstock sitting here. 1/2 inch by 3 inches. Should we take bets on how long it takes me to lose this one? Oh my word. Okay, so this piece I'm just going to cut just a little bit of an angle there and a little bit of an angle there just to add a little interest. So that I am going to adhere right down onto there. Oh, if you can't laugh at yourself, what have you got really, right? Okay, so that's there. And now, don't forget to add this guy down there. I'm going to put that down. My fingers are not picking up tonight. You ever have those days where it just like, I don't know, I must have chewed off all my fingernails, or I'm sure it's because I was working way too hard. Maybe crafting way too hard, but okay. So now we've got all these little strings, right? Here's what we're going to use. We are going to use the jute twine. We're going to use 3 of those. They come in a 4-pack. There's also the wild wheat. So we've got copper clay, pebbled path, moody mauve, and then there's also a spool of wild wheat in there. And then we're also going to be using some of the wavy trim. And you're going to say, but there's no wavy trim in there. There's wavy trim in there. It took me a minute to figure it out, but I got it. I got there in the end. Okay, so we're going to cut roughly 3-inch pieces. I'm not going to get too specific because we're going to end up kind of giving them haircuts anyhow. and we're making it look very earthy, right? So these, what we're going to do is kind of unwind them. These are really simple to unwind. In fact, that was the piece of fuzz I was chasing. Make sure your ink pads are closed, because the fibers will get onto your ink pads, and then you're going to have like messes on your stamps, and you're going to say, why is my stamp not stamping correctly? What is this? It's fibers from your ribbons, fibers from your strings. So, okay. So we're going to take those apart, right? And you don't have to take them all the way apart if you don't want to. You just loosen them up. Kind of fun, right? Come apart, fella, please. I want just the ends of you apart. There we go. Okay. So, I just wanted this one not to be so apart. I wanted it kind of together in the middle. Now, our wavy trim. I'm going to cut roughly a 3-inch piece of that again. And now I want you to see this. If you look at this wavy trim, there's a piece going down the middle and then two that wave in and out. So if you take and you pull out right there and pull out right there, it's literally braided together. Okay, so you can just work your way down, pull out, and you're left with this one that's kind of crocheted in the middle. Okay, so pull out, and just keep doing it gently. Okay, now I'm not going to make you watch me do it. Ta-da! It's all done. I had one done for you. So this is what you're going to end up with. It literally comes apart into pieces. Awesome. Love it. So we're going to take all of these. We're going to take the piece of, let's see here. So I would like it to go like that. Do you see how I have to figure it out? I have to put it back behind there and then set it on there and go, okay, like that. So now I want the pebbled path to kind of lay with that, just ever so nicely. And then I'd like the copper clay and the moody mauve to kind of go up and down a little bit more, but not totally up and down, but you know, just different. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Oh, let's put it all a little closer together. Okay, like that. That's how I want it. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it back over, and I'm going to get this really cool product called Scotch tape. Plain old Scotch tape. You could use double-sided tape. You could use whatever you have in your area. Nobody is judging you. This, to me, is just the easiest way to do it because it is. Isn't that cool? So you've got the different textures, the different colors, the different thicknesses. It is like, oh my word. It's so cool. Ah. All right, so now we're going to grab our dimensionals. Take them, and that's why another reason that I've got all those right together in the middle. 2 dimensionals are going to be perfect on this. And we're going to stick that right on there like that. So, like I said, you're going to come back in and you're kind of going to give it a haircut because it's not going to fit in the envelope like that. But don't make it too perfect. You want it to be, you want it to have some, you know, wildness. I just think this is the coolest thing ever, and I love how it turned out. That one just intrigued me because I had to figure out where did they come up with that shape and where did they come up with all the different textures. Really not a difficult card. Is that not the coolest thing? So this is the sample if you'd like to take a screenshot. And I'm going to put an inside in. And you know what? I think I'm going to stamp on the inside of this also. Because like I said, I know where this is going. With gratitude. Because another person that this card is going to go to. I know exactly where it is. I know exactly where it's going. All right, copper clay. Just like that. Perfect. All right, so there is card number 2. So let's bring in our other card. Oh, I've got some other samples too of cards that I've received in swaps and things like that. So those are my 2 cards for tonight. And I absolutely love how they turned out. I just think those are the coolest. I'm in love with this suite. I really am. Some other cards that I've gotten with this, I don't know where I got this from, who made it, so I'm sorry. But very similar, that deckled rectangle again. The Moody Mauve colors. This is the different kind of die cut. There's that paper again where it's got the marbling or the running down. This one is the nice big fern. Just so pretty. I love this. This was from Diane Logeas. Super pretty. Love that. This one is from Becky Edson. Used the different pots again, and she stamped right on the paper. This one here, this is the handle. Excuse me. So she cut out the regular size small pot, and then there's a set of handles in the dies. So that's this here. She just put that right on top. So that's how you would use that. And then this was another card that I had made. This is what I started with. It's a tower card. So I love that. And it looks rusty. So I am going to turn the camera around. Paper Share is posted on my Facebook page. It is $45. It's open until the 15th of September. I will be putting in the order on the 16th, and then they'll be delivered roughly beginning of October. So if you're interested in that, check out the details on my Facebook page. It's posted right up at the top. It's pinned right up there. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you here again next Friday night. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.